the first place was to rid this. And you know what's happened is for 8 years of my life, I've lost my house, my children, all my personal property through the family courts. And basically, what I see here is the same thing that's going on with the Valerie Flame issue
or whatever, yeah.
On the national thing, where you're targeting people who are whistleblowers. You target people who are informing officers and retaliate against people. And it's just the same thing as what happened with the Don Siegelman case. You have a bunch of people here that are like acting like rogue judges and lawyers. You have the Bar Association who's backing up these judges. And what the problem here is that we can't bring here's the situation.
Can I back you up just one?
Sure.
Legislative misconduct. Wasn't there some to do with the map? Well,
I don't want to stay on the sheriff system right now.
Okay.
For the issue here, because I think what the most primary thing is that here's what my statement is. You know what? If we can't trust the Chief Justice and the judges we're entrusted with this, and we have the situation with Taco Sullivan gerrymandering a case, and playing political games, withholding cases, with the Freedom of Information Act, with the Hartford Current deal. Well, here's the problem here in the state of Connecticut. Anybody who's a whistleblower or, brings out any kind of fraud or misconduct, they end up treating somebody like they're some sort of person hanging out at Area 51, that you have psychological problems, blah, 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 blah. They go on and try to discredit you. Here's the problem with the whole state of Connecticut judicial branch. They expect the new Chief Justice, Justice Rogers, is expecting the public to say, oh, we're going to clean up the state of Connecticut judicial branch, and we're going to have this whole public integrity clean up with ethics. Well, here's the problem I have. You know what? They conspired against over 500,000 voters. How hard is it to conspire against one person who's bringing this up right now? So, 8 years I've been sitting there.
For the highest ranking sheriff, who's now a judicial marshal, who is from the sheriff system that was in trouble in the sheriff system, and now they're collecting double pensions as
well,
judicial
that's
marshal?
Another problem is that the state of Connecticut, back in 1997, okay, there was Public Act 97-148, and what happened was that Mr. Zaharik, okay, who's now the director of the state of Connecticut Judicial Marshal Services, became High Sheriff of Litchfield County because there was a man named Andy Ossoff, who was a former Connecticut State Trooper. Andy Ossoff was collecting a hazardous duty pension from the state of Connecticut, and under the state of Connecticut pension laws, you can only work 120 days re-employment. Well, what happened was that former High Sheriff Egan, and this is all in the 89-page Attorney General report about illegal lobbying activities and whatnot over there in the state of Connecticut. Sheriff Egan was a former state employee. So basically he saw that Andy Ossoff, the elected High Sheriff of Litchfield County, was prohibited of going on as elected. He had to resign where Zaharik took place. So what happened was in the middle of the 1997 session, there was a bill, 97-148, and that was an act to give all the blue shirt, the uniform officers, pension, holiday, and be treated like other similarly situated peace officers in the state of Connecticut. So what happened was there was a rider put on there, and allowed the state of Connecticut former state troopers and corrections officers to work beyond 120-day statutory penalty. Basically, gave carte blanche for these guys who were collecting 20-year hazardous duty pay pensions to now collect both their pensions that the taxpayers are shelling out, and then go on and collect salaries out of the state treasury. Now, did they do anything wrong? Is there anything illegal about that? Well, I don't think they could really be blamed too much about it, but what happened was that this was put in at the 11th hour of this bill 97-148, and it's caused a lot of problems with this, when they transferred all the deputy sheriffs over from the judicial branch, from the executive branch to the judicial branch. Now you have on the state of Connecticut taxpayer rolls guys who were collecting a 20-year hazardous duty pension with full medical benefits, and now they're collecting full salaries. millions of dollars of taxpayers' monies are being shelled out to pay these guys to stay home. That's what retirement means, to withdraw and go away, not to come back in a state agency. And what happened was that CBAC, which is a coalition of labor unions, made the special deputies who were transferred over to the judicial branch 20-year hazardous duty employees. It's just an absolute disgrace what's happened in the state of Connecticut. And the thing is that nobody brings this stuff out. And if you do, you end up losing your house, you lose your children. And what happens is you get, for 8 years of my life, particularly the last 4, I've been stripped of all my property, my children. It's just absolutely horrible to live like this.
Mr. Jim Parks, you were a sheriff, you were a lobbyist, you're a judicial marshal. People that were your brethren and sisters in the force, are they upset with you that you're coming out with this?
No, well, who's going to be upset is the state of Connecticut Judicial Branch. I mean, the Chief Justice, the newly appointed Chief Justice Chase Rogers, is probably going to go, here she did, for 1 year she's been Chief Justice, and the reason why she's Chief Justice is because of the Taco Sullivan mess. So now here's what's happening is they've come out after me for the past 8 years, particularly the last 4 years, clobbering me. So all of a sudden, after getting pounded and pounded, a right hook comes up off the canvas, and I knock the state of Connecticut for a loop here, because basically, who's bringing the issues out? Chase Rogers expects, under her website that basically that she put on this 42-member commission comprised of lawyers and judges that we're going to clean our acts up. Here's my point on this whole thing.
You think they were covering up what they're doing?
You know what? Here's the thing is that what happens in American society here is that, how much money do you need, and when does it end? We have Senator DeLuca getting arrested, going to mafia guys. We have, the mayor of Bridgeport, the mayor of Waterbury getting thrown in a clink. Where are you supposed to bring this stuff up? You can't go to the feds because basically,
And Connecticut, they're all married to each other. They go back and forth from state to federal.
Here's another situation is that, after a while the gloves come off. You try to go to court and you try to plead your case here, but here's the thing is I've been involved. I'm 54 years old. I've been around for a long time, and a lot of people know who I am in the state of Connecticut. Politically, I've been around a long time, and I turn my back on this. I just don't want to participate in this nonsense.
Peter Clark Smith.
Here's what the situation is. We have in the state of Connecticut this mess going on. We have Peter Clark Smith, who I started off in politics years ago, 25 years ago.
And he's also what Jim Amon was...
James Amon, his name is.
Yeah.
And I have a message for Jimmy Amon and some of the legislators up there. Here's the problem here is we got a real shill game. We have the State of Connecticut Judicial Selection Commission, okay, which, you have the majority leader and the governor appoints these panels on there. And what they do is when you nominate a judge, they have to go through a screening process. The mechanism is that the governor elects or nominates, they submit it there and she nominates or he nominates who a candidate is for judge. Now you got the screening committee, and what do you have here is you have Peter Clark Smith, who's partners with Lou Rome, who's sitting on there, who represents the Mohegan Sun, and he's writing checks out for the Mohegan Sun Political Action Committee, okay, to both political parties, the Republicans and the Democrats. It's all on the
Is he on a judicial payroll?
No, he's on the selection commission to screen judges. Now, this is here's the situation. What the problem here is in the state of Connecticut, the people are getting really screwed to the wall here.
So there's outside influence. That kind of stinks.
Listen, here, this is very simple. We have almost like the Abramoff nonsense going on here. You have a situation in the state of Connecticut where you have an Indian gaming lobbyist writing out checks for political action, okay, committees to both major parties, and they're going to screen judges? I mean, he was appointed by Speaker Amon, okay, who I started off in politics back in the 1980s. And what you have here is
Can you
this.
explain the relationship between